predated this project in terms of my joining of the team. So you would have been working with
Yeah.
Francis, Jenny, and Sally.
Absolutely. Yes, yes.
So if there's any detail on the systematic review, I'll throw to you, because I joined just at the time of the analysis of the interviews. And then remember, we authored that paper together, which that's when I joined. Yeah.
No, and I didn't. It was really interesting because I didn't know what had happened about that paper and the analysis of the work and everything. And then suddenly I got a manuscript from somebody called Dara Sampson, who I didn't.
You're thinking, who on earth is this Dara Sampson? And why is she
how come this
me,
project is all this? But this idea of new people joining the project and taking it on and everything is one of the things I think that makes this an exciting program. That is not only the original people sort of slaving away at something, but people move on and other people come on and then build on it and develop it. So I think very interesting. But I'm looking forward,
definitely.
All ears.
And you're wrong about Marmite too, I just have to say.
Yes, I agree, Dara. It's very important.
Next time I'm in Australia, you'll have to convince me on Vegemite.
All right. Vegemite on toast, there's nothing better.
No. And I think at one time Vegemite was going to get called Parmite, as in opposition to Marmite.
Is that true? Because that to me,
I believe
that sounds like palm oil or something hideous is in it.
Yeah, no. I think they were just debating on the name. I just remember, don't ask me why I retained that silly piece of information, but it's sitting in there in the brain. Anyway, I think I might begin. I think, we've got 25 people here, so that we'll just get going. Others, no doubt, will join in. So I'd just like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the unceded lands on which we live, learn, work and play, and pay my respects to their unique values, their continuing and enduring cultures that deepen and enrich the life of our nation and communities, and to the elders past and present. So welcome to this AFINet webinar. My name is Julie Perrin and I'm one of the trustees, and I'm now the secretary of AFINet as well. So the Addiction and the Family International Network, AFINet, exists to bring together practitioners, researchers, policymakers and experts by experience who are all interested in the effects that someone's problematic use of alcohol or other drugs or gambling has on members of their family and on other people close to them. We now have more than 1,100 members from 58 countries across the world and growing. So that's great news that we're reaching out so far. You can learn more about AFINet from our website, and if you're not already a member, you can join for free by completing the application form, which is also on the website. Among other things, AFINet does is we hold conferences, annual conferences, and we have this webinar series. So in alternate years, we hold either a face-to-face conference or an online one. Last year, we had a face-to-face conference in May in the beautiful city of Quebec in Canada, which was a great success. And our next one will be online. That'll be on the 15th and 16th of September. The second day will be the most suitable day time-wise for people in the Oceania region. And our call for abstracts will open on the 1st of April 2026. So please do submit an abstract if you have something AFINet related to share. So the programs and recordings of the conference presentations going back to our online conference in 2021 are all available on the website. The webinar that we're going to hear today is part of our webinar series. The webinars are free, but as a small charity with no funding sources, donations from those who attend their webinars are always welcome. And again, the details on how to donate are on our website. On the technical side of the webinars, running the video conferencing systems and making the recordings and so on, that's undertaken by two of our colleagues in Finland, believe it or not, who work for the Aid Clinic Foundation, Sari Javansu and Jane Takala. So a huge thank you to them. They work very much behind the scenes, but make this stuff work really well. The webinar series has been running since October 2020, and like the conferences or the presentations are online on our website. And if people want to catch up on a wide range of excellent, fascinating presentations we've had from all over the world, including New Zealand, Indonesia, Malaysia, numerous European countries, Canada, the US, Brazil, and of course Australia, they're all available there. So today's webinar comes from Australia, and it is my very great pleasure to introduce Dr. Steph Kershaw, who's the Senior Research Fellow at the Matilda Centre for Research in Mental Health and Substance Use at the University of Sydney. Steph leads an innovative program of research and translation to reduce the impact of substance use. Her research aims to improve the health outcomes for individuals, families and communities, especially among priority populations. Steph is passionate about addressing the stigma and discrimination associated with alcohol and drug use. We also have Dr. Dara Sampson, who is a Senior Research Fellow at the University of Newcastle. She's got a background in social work practice, senior government leadership, social work education, consultancy and research. Her areas of interest and expertise include language and its power to construct our work, social justice, gender equity and mental well-being. And then we also have Jessica Dang, who is the research assistant at the Matilda Centre. She holds a Master of Clinical Psychology from the University of Melbourne. She's passionate about research aimed at reducing stigma, improving accessibility to evidence-based support and exploring the social determinants that influence substance use and recovery. So today, all three are going to present on or tell us about the Family and Friends Support Programs development and pilot testing of a web-based wellbeing and resilience intervention for family members and their friends supporting a loved one using alcohol and other drugs. They're going to talk for about 45 minutes, and then there's going to be time for people to ask questions, and we're going to do that either through the chat or by putting up your hands. We're going to play that one a bit by ear when we get there. But I think, yes, that's all I have to say right now. So I'm just going to hand over to the three of you now. Thank you very much and welcome.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Julie. And thank you all for joining us, especially given the time difference. I know Australia isn't the easiest country to coordinate all the world clocks with. We would also just like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land. We at the University of Sydney are based on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And as we share our knowledge and teachings and learning and research practices, we pay respect to the knowledge embedded forever within the Aboriginal custodianship of the country. This project has been a slow burn over many years. It was originally funded in 2015, and as many research projects, it's had little bits of top-ups from here and there. But I'd like to thank the many research team members who have contributed to the project through its many years, and we're excited to share where it's up to now and where we're hoping to take it next. So to talk through the project development, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Dara Sampson. I nearly said Sarah Dampson then. Complete name change for you. Dara is our wonderful collaborator at the University of Newcastle, who led the project development stage, although she did join later on. So be nice to her with any questions, please. Over to you, Dara.
And Dara, Sarah Dampson is at your pleasure here. I'm here on Warramai and Awabakal land up in Newcastle. And so I joined the team probably in about 2018. Now, Jess, do I need to be moving these on or?
No, I'll have control over them, but if you just give a little next or something, I can move it along for you.
Next, please. Yeah, so interestingly, what led to this particular project was a prior project that had been interested in engaging with people who were identifying as having an ice usage problem. And when the team at that time started advertising, started recruiting, what they found overwhelmingly was a big interest from family, friends, people in the community wanting to know how to better support not only the people that they identified as having a usage issue, but also, you know, how I guess to start thinking about where they sat in relation to that family or member or friend. So there was some initial funding through, as Steph mentioned, Ministry of Health. And then the team, in an iteration before I joined, undertook a systematic review. That was an online survey as well, and then 17 interviews. And the interviews, I guess, is the point at which I became more involved. They were with daughters, partners, sibling, ex-partner, and I had the, you know, the fortune to be able to read all of those transcriptions, which was my first introduction to the project. Thanks, Jess. Yeah, so I guess the components that went into the systematic review or the variants looked for were having some relationship to a person with an AOD usage issue, and then a definition of what those particular drug and alcohol types might be. And then the third element of interest was what interventions have people undertaken and what's been helpful and what's been less helpful. Thanks, Jess. Search strategy there, again, just kind of outlining what was done, what the process was. After quite an exhaustive search, there were 52 studies that were found to meet the criteria. Thanks, Jess. And some of the information that informed then what ensued in terms of the interviews, the effective elements. Some spoke of drug education, and then when Steph talks more about the FFSP program, you'll see there's a strong psychoeducative element to that. Coping skills, self-evaluation, goal setting, communication. Again, the program was developed and we did possibly 3 years ago. We were able to, as Steph said, we've kind of been you know, garnering funding wherever we can, and we were given some additional money through COVID, and at that point we developed some additional modules, but we also did a revamp of Family Friends support program. Life enjoyment regardless of substance users' actions, and that's a really big one that I want to come back to when we talk about the theoretical lens that I applied to the analysis of the interviews. Education. It was important for people to have self-paced online skills training. Now, this came again from something I picked up in the interviews, and that underpins the development of the program, is the stigma. There was an overwhelming and a sad sense of stigma for people, not only caring for people with AOD usage issues, but there was certainly a hierarchy in terms of what was perceived as okay and less okay. So particular drugs, certainly ice, was seen as one where family members, friends felt very vilified and judged by not taking a harsher stance. So often they chose to isolate. So they didn't necessarily want to be going or have the time or capacity to go to a face-to-face mainstream service. They wanted something they could do on their own. And again, motivational interviewing, CBT, toolbox of strategies and activities, so things that would readily translate to an online environment was some of the skills-based approaches that we took. Thanks, Jess. Yeah, so some of the aims for the development of the program: improving communication skills, and really what that was about. I mean, that sounds a bit twee and overarching, but it came from family, friends saying about how to better communicate with the person that was in their life, but also where the boundaries might be on that. Accepting responsibility for actions, again, the psychoeducative element there, provision of information, managing negative emotions. That was a big one that you'll see came out in our program. And I've touched there quite a bit on the societal stigma that went with drug usage generally, but particular drug usage too. Thank you, Jess. So the team undertook a Facebook recruitment strategy to see what are the systematic review findings, what was that like for people in actuality. 45 people completed the online survey. Probably not surprisingly, 90% identified as female. And if we look and we know about that caring is a gendered function, and the predominance of people in a caring role are female. 3 people identified as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. And there was a confluence of multi-poly drug usage, but alcohol being the highest. And again, when I was reading the manuscripts, many spoke about polydrug usage. 17 telephone interviews completed. They were done by Jenny Geddes, who's a former colleague, worked with Richard closely on the project. 9 mothers, their siblings, fiancés, husbands, brothers, flatmates or in-laws. Thanks, Jess. And so some of they were qual interviews, and so they were open-ended around what concerns you. Jenny spoke with people often for about an hour, and often had people recontact her thinking of more information they wanted to share. The negative impact on the relationship, that was the big standout. We heard people speak about relationship breakdowns, loss of custody of children, concerns about long-term impacts, change in mood, verbal and physical abuse, unpredictability. One woman spoke about a very fractured relationship with her husband because of their differing views about whether they should continue to support their adult son, who had, sadly stolen from them, become violent, and caused such a rupture in that relationship. That relationship didn't continue between the parents. And criminal activity, including loss of licence and others as well. Thanks, Jess. Yes, some of the quotes, and we used quite a few. Sorry, I didn't know if someone was jumping in there with a question. We used quite a few of these quotes when we developed our publication. And, just because they're so salient and relevant and, really heart-rending. Thanks, Jess. So we heard about financial strain, the burden of additional parental familiar responsibility. So often people thinking, particularly those 9 mothers we spoke with, that they'd done their time, that they had done their parenting, but now they're back parenting and not seeing an end to that parenting, perhaps with people in their 20s or 30s. Psychological, physical and financial stress, that was another big one that came up. Loss of partner, I touched on that in my last little anecdote. Loss of trust, anger and resentment and embarrassment and shame were the things we heard from the qual interviews. Some of the quotes there that support that. Makes me anxious. I hate being here. like a roller coaster that you can't get off. And that last quote there is one that we very much built into our thinking, developing the program about how to create space for people in this caring or supportive situation to take back some agency and some control. And that's why there's a lot of values-based exercises, mindful-based exercises, and again, boundary setting about what you're prepared and what you're able to do, so that you can still have some life of your own. Yes. So the key themes from the interviews, and this is the point at which I joined the team. I read through all of the manuscripts, and I guess coming from a social work background, but also having taught social work at both Sydney Uni and Newcastle Uni for many years, I immediately saw a big theoretical frame here of grief and loss. So there was the, and there's some of the quotes there that I'll leave there for you to read as I'm speaking about that theoretical lens. So there was the actual loss, I guess, as we know about it, of a pragmatic loss, of grief, of loss of, finances, loss of safety. But there was also, I strongly saw some other of the, I guess, more recent grief and loss theories. And one was ambiguous grief. And that was one that I applied to the findings. And that, just a brief recap, I'm sure you know what it is, but it's when there isn't a loss that's societally appropriated. It's not like a death, it's not like a separation. It's like the person is still there, but not necessarily the person as you know them. So it's ambiguous in that it doesn't get a formalized notion of grieving. But there's then that ambivalence about the person's still here in my life, but they're not the person as I knew them. And that was, the grief for a lot of people that we spoke to. There's also another, something called a dual model of grieving, where people go to the emotional response, and then, and you've probably seen this when people are organising, the organisers, people go, why aren't they grieving? They might then go to the very practical level. And I saw that as well in the manuscripts that I read. So that's the article that we published, and I think Jess has put the QR code up there.